Hi, everyone. Thank you for waiting. I know we're starting a few minutes late, but that's what happens when you're doing things live. So my name is Stephanie Hernandez. I am the marketing manager here at Chameleon Collective, and I'm super happy to introduce Uwe Hook, one of our most amazing chameleons. Uwe has been working in global financial services for quite a few years, as well as the fintech space throughout the last decade. And that's putting it very lightly. His clients include Visa, N26, World Remit, and Co-op Financial Services, just to name a few. So I will let Uwe take over for the rest of this webinar on reimagining financial services, marketing into the new strange. So when you're ready, Uwe, take over.
Thank you, Stephanie. Hi, everyone. And I didn't know I was one of the most amazing chameleons, and I appreciate that. So welcome to the new strange. It's a new reality we are all exploring, trying to make sense out of a world that doesn't really make sense anymore. In the next 20 minutes, I want to walk you through a few thoughts on reimagining financial services. I will share research and a few conclusions. And by tomorrow, we will share the source material with you, including a few additional thoughts via email. So for now, sit back and welcome to the new strange. COVID-19 was a shock to the system, and we are entering the second phase of the COVID crisis that might even be more impactful than the first one. The wrecking ball of COVID-19 has many victims. Number one, brand loyalty. We saw a massive move to digital players in the financial services space. First victim, a massive move to digital players. Cash was not a king anymore. Convenience, value, and availability through digital means was. In the US, for example, brand loyalty dropped by 75%. People that were very happy with the financial institution suddenly were not happy because they didn't want to leave the house. They needed to move into the digital space to connect with financial institutions. Second victim, digital transformation. With the exponential demand for digital experiences, we are all living through a digital acceleration. The system was creaking under the stress of imperfect technology, people adjusting to the new reality of working from home and not being able to work in the ways that we are used to work, and firms trying to cope with the acceleration. Third victim, marketing strategies. What was valid February 2020 felt ancient in April 2020. The weaknesses of marketing organizations were exposed. One thing became clear: there's too much spinning wheels discussing implementation while other organizations move ahead with the proven advantages of personalization and automation. As you can see in these stats from Financial Brand, the majority of weaknesses that marketing leaders express are really all about data, automation, onboarding, and cross-channel marketing. And the fourth victim was the financial wellness of our customers. In the future, financial institution must support its customers in having a financially balanced life, helping them to reduce financial stress by improving their financial well-being. As we know right now, people are stressed out. They don't know what will happen in the next months, since we are seeing more and more lockdowns all over the world. But more than that, they don't know what 2021 and beyond will bring. It will be at least 12 months before we emerge from our constraints lives, since vaccines, I'm not a medicine person, but from what I hear, is vaccine will be hopefully widely available by the end of next year, not earlier. That means that we are living in a new strange that we need to get comfortable with. And we cannot hope that things will go back to the way they were in February 2020. We know that the future that will not be as it was in February, and the future will not be as it is right now. So now I want to share with you 7 observations and trends that I see when it comes to financial services that will impact your marketing and the way you should connect with your customers. Number 1, we need to refocus our sector on delivering financial health rather than financial services or wellness. This has implications that go way beyond choosing better credit cards or spending less on coffee and more on pensions. Financial stress is one of the top stressors in the world, and research shows clearly that financial stress and economic hardship link to a variety of very negative physical and mental health outcomes, ranging from abuse and neglect to household dysfunction and heart disease. There's no doubt about it. Improving financial health improves health in general. In the future, we as financial institutions and fintech companies must support our customers in offering them a financially balanced life, helping them to reduce financial stress by improving their financial well-being. Second, this year, poor customer experience will destroy 30% of digital business projects and reduce revenue by 40%. Will your firm be one of them? What does it mean to be customer-centric? Customer-centric organizations understand the unique problems and expectations of their customers, as well as the context of those needs. They then consistently deliver products and services that meet those expectations. You must really win at every interaction the customer has with your organization. That's why it's so important that product, marketing, and sales are very deep integrated. If the product doesn't deliver on the promise, your marketing will not succeed, and vice versa. Every interaction you have with the customer has to provide value to them. Third, improve data quality. Gartner reports that poor data quality is a primary reason for 40% of all businesses initiatives failing to achieve their targeted benefit, including digital transformation initiatives. The data the data lakes that you built 2 years ago are now filled with toxic ingredients, and you need to clean them up constantly. For an organization to be data-driven, the responsibility for data quality has to be shared by all business teams. It also must be trusted by all users. Fourth, we have invested in the last decade heavily into marketing technologies. We are very sophisticated in connecting with customers, targeting them, engaging them. The plumbing that we've built in the last decade is really solid and very strong. However, what are we going to tell them? What poetry are we sending through our plumbing? Besides conversion messages, what big ideas are you communicating to the customers? How are you engaging with the customers outside of your typical conversion banners or videos? Fifth, accelerate D&I. And I mean by that not only gender and ethnicity, but also cultural background, age, education, and anything else that makes human beings such an exciting species. Diversity is not just a metric to be strived for. It is actually an integral part of a successful revenue generating business. Of course, this makes sense because diversity means diversity of minds, ideas, and approaches, which allows teams to find a solution that takes into account multiple angles to the problem, thus making the solution much, much stronger. Therefore, diversity is really key for a company's bottom line. 6, fight short-termism. Everybody knows the marshmallow experiment that you can actually see if kids can restrain themselves to get the marshmallows. The marshmallows of our marketing world is Google and Facebook. Marshmallows are really tasty, just like the leads from Google and Facebook, but they don't contribute your personal and brand's health. Building your brand is a key to driving sales, boosting partnerships, and accelerating growth. You want customers to trust your name, eager to learn more and be proud they can rely on your brand to run their business. Consider brand building as a long-term commitment and investment, not an expense. And 7, last time I checked, there's no written rule you should have a Twitter feed, YouTube and/or a Twitch channel, a TikTok strategy, or any virtual events. This is the right time to look at all of your channels and strategies and cut your losses. If a channel doesn't contribute to your bottom line, cut it. Just because in 2019 it made sense doesn't mean it makes sense in 2020. I see so many various social ruins out there where people don't post anymore. They still have links on the homepage on the app to those social feeds. And you should really look at this and see, what should I cut? What is really the core of my brand, and how should I communicate my core message and communication to my customers? So what does this mean? Richard Tobaccovalo created this ABCD of reinvented marketing, and I'm going to walk you through it a little bit. As I said, I'm going to send out the link to various articles of his and other people to give you a little bit more background on this. So the ABCD of reinvented marketing is: A is the audience, B is the brand, C is content, fourth is data, and E is enterprise. So let's talk about audience first. Stop looking, so people, not consumers. Stop looking at your customers as consumers and regard them as people with godlike powers. Treat them as such. They have more power than you ever had as a brand 20 years ago, and they will use that power. Participate, not passive. Activate their participation, because their daily behavior is about creating, sharing, and interacting. Tap into this user behavior. Reaggregate, not segment. Segmentation is an outdated concept. Instead, reaggregate and interact and reaggregate small interactions into new experiences. Let's talk about brand. Experience, not communications. So in an era of empowered people connected to each other, the focus should be on the experience. The brand is the experience, and experience is the brand. Most financial services firms spend 70% on marketing and 30% on product. Healthy firms in the digital space reverse the paradigm. They spend 70% on experience and 30% on telling people about it. And I say that as an interim CMO, that I said you should rather reduce your marketing budget and focus more on your product to deliver a premium experience. You need to be purpose-driven. Purpose matters more than ever, especially in today's time of social, financial, and health challenge. Purpose is not some words left to wander on a lonely corporate website, but the way a company or brand behaves. Employees as brand advocates. If a company does not invest and treat its employees well, it will be very challenged on both the experience front. Angry and tired employees are not going to be able to deliver great products or experiences. But also, any purpose statement rings hollow if you cannot look after your own people. Content. Poetry versus plumbing. I talked about this before. Our plumbing is working well. What about your poetry? You need to focus more on the poetry part of our business. Response, not just create. Many campaigns are started by people. Memes or perspectives about your brand can ricochet all over the world very quickly. We've seen this in many, many instances. And you need to ensure that in a world of weaponized platforms, that you have world-class risk intelligence partner and a rapid action team. You need to move hearts, not just minds. Never forget people choose with their hearts and use number to justify what they do. Content that moves is content that moves product. Second to last, data. Very few companies will find a competitive edge in data. It will be a key ingredient and not the be-all or end-all of strategy. And very few companies will be able to live on their own data. The three areas of focus on data are quality versus quantity. As I mentioned before, if 90% of your data has been created in the last 2 years, your company data lake is filled with toxic ingredients. Real-time access and not just ownership. First-party relationships with people who buy from you are key. Using platforms as the roadways to reach them will lead to high tolls or blockades. Just see when people are relying on data that they receive from Google or Facebook. You need to, first and foremost, to rely on your own data. Meaning versus mass. How do you interrogate data and involve diverse mindsets, interconnect larger trends, and add imagination to make meaning from the mass? And last but not least, enterprise. The paranoid die, the schizophrenic thrive. Any growth, former CEO of Intel said, only the paranoid will survive in the future. That's not true anymore. Rather than being paranoid, it's better to be schizophrenic. So while you're working on your current business and ensure that you optimize your current business lines, you at the same time should have a second line of business, focusing just on building the new tomorrow, where some of the best talent that you have and that are giving all the assets and all the resources of the companies and none of the liabilities, and asked to do whatever it takes to move into the future. Diverse, fear-free culture. I cannot stress this enough. Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Culture is the result of what fear-free, diverse people do when no one is watching. To navigate change, companies need fear-free cultures of diverse people and mindsets led by leaders who do the shit they claim others should do. Incentivize and train for change and worship no sacred cows. Last but not least, trust the speed. If a company wants to be high velocity, it must be one built on trust. A company where information and decision-making is transparent, leaders are accountable, and cover your ass deck writing and proposals and meetings to prepare for meetings are minimized. So what to do now? You should not focus on your competitors. It doesn't mean what your competitors are doing. I still see a lot of competitive reviews and ideas taken from competitors. You should solely focus on your customers. You need to, as I mentioned before, product and marketing into one unit. If your product doesn't work well, your marketing will not succeed, and vice versa. You need to upgrade your data and analytics capabilities immediately. That should be at the forefront of everybody who's in the marketing space. You need to also invest in more automation of plumbing. There are so many tools out there that there's no need for human intervention in most of the plumbing part of the marketing stack. However, you need to you need to invest in creative. You need to invest more in poetry. Cut your losses. Look at what you're spending this year on certain tactics. See if they really returned the investment you expected. Look at before COVID, look post-COVID, and then make decisions, make hard decisions on cutting your losses. Just because a Twitter feed has 10,000 followers, but nobody interacts with it, you should just then cut it and delete it from your marketing tactics. And last but not least, incentivize behavior and not just outcomes. Culture is really everything when it comes to growth. And I want to end with a quote from Jeff Bezos. There are many ways to center a business. You can be a competitor focused, you can be product focused, you can be technology focused, you can be business model focused, and there are more. But in my view, and that's Jeff Bezos' view, obsessive customer focus is by far the most protective of day one vitality. Focus on your customers and you can't go wrong. Thank you so much for spending the time with us. Are there any questions, Stephanie? Otherwise, I want to thank everybody for joining.
Yes, actually, there were two questions and they hit on the similar topics. So I'm going to try to actually put them together to see if that we'll answer for both of them. So basically, both of them were hitting on you mentioning about cutting channels, which I know you just mentioned it at the end as well. And they were talking about if we do have channels like Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, just because we are not having a lot of interaction, shouldn't we just put more paid media towards it? I've heard the trend that most things are turning digital, and I don't want to turn my back on digital if that's going to be the new way to interact with my customers. So I don't know if you have any.
Yeah, it's a little bit complex question because when it comes to especially YouTube and Twitch, you need to understand the channel. You need to develop creative for those channels. So just to put paid media against mediocre or subpar creative is not worth it. If you're willing to commit, and I think that's very important, especially when it comes to social channels, you need to be willing to commit not only to a media investment, but also to investment in creative, because only good creative breaks through on YouTube and Twitch. If you're not willing to invest in creative that is specifically designed for these channels, I rather you focus on other things that make an immediate impact. I agree that Twitch and YouTube they're not even the future; they're the current present. But you also need to deal with your own reality of what resources do you have available and what you can commit to.
We actually got another question as you were sending that. Let me go back to it in a second. Oh, okay. So how can we as marketing organizations become faster in our decision making with clients, and how do we answer them without making presumptions when we aren't sure of what's going to be the post-COVID trend?
I think you need to, you should experiment. So nobody knows. If somebody tells you what will happen in 2021, I can assure you they're lying. Nobody knows what's going to happen in 2021. What we see certain trends, we know digital is moving further. Digital experience will become more important in 2021 since we won't have real life experiences. But I think you need to follow the trends, and you need to experiment yourself with your own channels and tactics and creative strategies. And then if these strategies and tactics succeed, then you can scale up. There's not one solution for everybody that would work. There are, I mean, I hear this from many clients that they say, I want to be on TikTok. That's great. TikTok is an amazing tool, but don't be there if you don't commit to it. When you need to develop really amazing creative to be there. Otherwise, you will just have a channel that nobody looks at. So my recommendation is really to, while you spend 80% of your budget on proven marketing strategies and tactics, you should always reserve 20% of your marketing budgets for experimentation, because if you're early in a space or on a platform and you find a way to connect creatively with people, it can have a massive benefit for you and your brand.
Well, those were our 3 questions, I guess, as a whole. If anyone has any others and we're not able to answer them right now, you can, of course, feel free to either send us an email or, you can write it to us in one of our social media messages. I know there are people watching as well on our Facebook and on our Twitter stream. So thank you for joining us as well. And Uwe, I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to mention towards the end. I know you said you would be sending out extra documents, some helpful things, helpful studies that are going along with this, but is there anything else you'd like to let everyone know?
I think everybody had enough of me, so I think everybody needs to go back to their daily life. And I thank everybody for spending the time with us, and we'll see you in the future.